Hello and welcome. This is the Gamer 2.0. I would like to welcome everyone to my very first Let's Talk. I'm going to be probably doing this every other week or so, just to kind of talk a little bit about the industry, kind of what we're looking at in terms of gaming. And so today I wanted to talk a little bit about the difference between gamers and Appsters. So I went ahead and I pulled up the definition for gamer, and from the Merriam-Webster dictionary, it says a player who is game, which I'm not really sure what that means, but a person who plays games, a person regularly who plays video games or computer games. So I think this is kind of a rather wide version of what a gamer is, and I think it's actually changed a little bit over the years. So if we take a look at the origin of the term gamer, we can actually kind of take a look at how it was referred to back in around 1845 when they were talking about gambling and they were considered illegal gamers. However, as time kind of progressed, we saw more of the tabletop style of games kind of be referred to gamers before it finally kind of got ultimately taken over by the electronic styles of games. Alright, so if we go to Google and we image search what a gamer is, we can kind of get a pretty clear idea as we see people with PCs, people with controllers, gaming setups that include controllers, PCs, things of that nature. So it's pretty easy to see what is considered to be a gamer. And what I would say would qualify someone as a gamer would be someone that plays console games or someone that plays PC games. And the reason why I would say that those two are considered gamers is because there is a financial barrier of entry. So between these two, you have to go out and purchase a console or you have to purchase a PC. Now, the primary use of these items is to either play games, or the secondary use of these items is to play games. While an appster would be someone that would be more about the mobile games or browser games. The reason why this would be a difference is because the phone isn't mainly used as a gaming device, and the PC browser, the internet browser, is also not going to be something that's going to be primarily used for. Then we also need to discuss why this is kind of important and why this doesn't really make sense to have both appsters as well as the gamers really included into one bracket. So if we take a look at how many gamers there are, we can see here that if we just scroll down just a little bit, so how many gamers are there in 2024? It says that there are 3.32 billion active gamers worldwide. For me, I think that sounds a little bit too much. So if we actually take a look at the number of people in the entirety of the world, we can see that there are 7.951 billion people in the entirety of the world. So what percentage of that would be gamers at this point? So if we take a look, I actually did the numbers, so 3.32 billion out of the 7.951 billion, we're left with right around about 42% of all people in the entirety of the world would be considered gamers at that point. Now, I do understand that this is from 2022, so this isn't the 100% accurate number, but if we look right here, we can see that the actual number would probably be closer to 8.1 billion. So what we can do is we can actually take a look for that as well. So if we have the 3.32 billion gamers out of the 8.1 billion people in the world, that would still leave us with right around 41% of all the people in the entirety of the world would be considered gamers. If we wanted to take a look at what the difference is between this here and what the number of mobile game players or appsters would be, we can actually take a look at the number of smartphone ownerships. So if we take a look at what we currently have, it says that we have right about 6.84 billion smartphones globally. So of course it's not going to be 100% active with, being able to play games, because those are probably going to include things like work phones or alternate phones that probably don't see a lot of use. So if we wanted to take this number and actually break it down, we could say 200 million of those phones would actually be not really usable for gaming or for playing with apps. So if we would do that, it would give us right about the 50% mark of all of the people that own smartphones would actually be considered as a gamer at that point. So if we take a look back over here at the gaming market share, we could basically tell that this is supposed to be representing roughly about 3.32 billion gamers and appsters put together. and we would assume that all of these are equally portioned out. However, when I take a look at this this one right here for the console games, it says that it's roughly almost about 30%, but I don't think I've ever really heard of a billion consoles ever being sold, or a game ever reaching a billion copies sold. So this kind of got me thinking as to what are the actual lifetimes of console sales, and what is the most that any have ever actually reached. So we can go ahead and we can take a look here. So I went ahead and I pulled up the lifetime sales of video game consoles worldwide as of 2024, and even the most sold game console only reached about 158 million units sold. So this kind of got me thinking as to why is this so much different than the 3.32 billion gamers and Appsters put together, and yet it still seems so low for the number of sales. So if we go ahead and we pull up the good old-fashioned calculator, we can actually kind of take a look here. So if we calculate all of the different game consoles that are the most recent ones, I'm going to go ahead and skip the PlayStation 5 just because that one is actually pretty difficult to get a hold of, and a lot of people aren't able to actually really get that one. So I'm going to count the PlayStation 4 instead. So if we go ahead, we take the Nintendo Switch, which looks like it is 137.72, and then we take the PlayStation 4, which is 117.16. Alright, and looks like I need to scroll down a little bit for the Xbox Series X. So if we add that one in here as well, that is 27.68. So we only get a grand total of about 282 million gamers altogether that have purchased a console. But if we look back here at the market shares, we can see that that only roughly equates to about 30%, and then PC gamers is roughly another 19%, which would mean that it would be roughly about 66 to 70% more console gamers than there are PC gamers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this number and I'm actually just going to double it. So we're going to times that by 2. So this would be as if there was the exact same number of PC gamers as there were console gamers. So we still only get 565 million players altogether. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to multiply that by 1 million just to give us a nice round number. So 565,120,000. But if we take this number and we say that this number is out of all the gamers, so out of 332, and then make this into a billion, that means that roughly 20% out of all of the people that buy consoles and buy PCs make up roughly about 46% of the overall spending on video games as a whole. So if we subtract 1 from that, which would mean that roughly 82 to 83% of the market only makes up 53% of the cost of all the things that are basically sold between gamers and Appsters. So we're looking at roughly 17, and actually it's going to be a little bit less, because if we take a look back here at the console sales, this doesn't include anything such as people that have bought a PlayStation 2 and then sold it, bought a PlayStation 4, sold it, rebought it back, bought the PlayStation 4 and then also bought an Xbox Series X, bought a Switch as well as a PC. So this is everything as if each of these sales were individual sales added together. And we can even take a look at this through the list of the best-selling video games, because if we take a look here, the best-selling video game has only ever reached 300 million sales. Grand Theft Auto 5, again, still only 200 million sales. So if we put those together, that's still 5 million individual sales, assuming that none of those people bought both copies of the games. So what this would mean is again, the two largest selling video games ever still only reaches out to roughly about 500 million people. So we're looking at a group of people that spend far more out of these two groups for the two gamer side than the number of appsters that we have that spend any money at all. So if we're looking at this and video game companies see that they have a possibility of 3.32 billion players altogether that they can have access to, the truth is that only about 500 million are looking to actually really purchase their products. The other 53% out of this is at 83% less likely to really purchase anything or even play their game, because again, there's no physical or financial barrier to entry on this point. As long as you have a phone, as long as you have a tablet or anything of that nature, you basically have access to all of these games. And again, 85% of the market is only making up 53% of the total gross, whereas less than 20% of the market is making up roughly about 46%. So this is why I think that gamers and appsters should probably be separated whenever it comes to the idea of being a gamer, because gamers tend to spend a lot more money on their hobby than appsters really tend to.